afternoon. I want you to think back to when you were in elementary school or middle school or high school. Do you remember a time when you were fully engaged, full with so much curiosity that you wanted to know more? I know that as a student growing up, these were lessons that were few and far between for me. But the lessons that made my mind race and that I found truly inspiring made a very big difference in who I became as an educator. Sadly, for many of our students today, these moments are still ones of rarity. And our schools are struggling with a crisis of student disengagement. But what if we could change that? What if we could change how the consumption of knowledge is happening? Hi, my name's Laura Fuller, and I want to take you on a journey with me of student engagement and active learning through student-led project-based learning, a technological approach. As someone who struggled with traditional instruction almost my entire life, with dyslexia and speech impediments, I can attest to how important this is. How important it is to have a classroom that is a place that you feel safe to learn and thrive. So what's our problem? I already stated what our problem was, but I'm going to say it again. Our problem is a problem of practice that we see way too many times today. We see student disengagement. We all know that student engagement is the key to learning successfully. Yet across the United States, at alarming rates, students are becoming disengaged. Sitting in the straight rows that we set out for them while they sit and listen to a lecture, and passively absorb information. Unfortunately, this does not resonate with today's learners. Study after study has proven this, has proven that disengaged students miss out on the development of 21st century skills. And these skills are critical for academic success and success in the workplace. When students do not learn critical thinking, problem solving, how to be creative and collaborate with each other, it sets them up for failure, not only in academia, but in the real world work environments as well. If what they are doing is not engagement, what is it? What is happening in our classrooms? We need to get these students engaged. How do we get them engaged? Engagement is not just paying attention to the teacher as they passively spout out facts about something, or memorizing these facts to pass a test or get good grades. It's about curiosity, interest, and passion about the subject that they are covering. Remember how I asked you if you can remember a time you felt truly engaged or a time that you felt left behind? I want you to think about that. That engagement is the key, once again. Wanting to be an active learner in the space you are, being an active learner means you are directly involved in the learning process rather than just sitting back and letting the words pass you by. But here's the kicker. In many of our classrooms today, students are so disconnected that they unwillingly become passive learners. They may be sitting in a lab station or in a group of students and may seem like they are participating, but are they truly engaged in the learning process? At this point, if they're not engaged in the learning process, they have just become another passive learner, filling a seat with no real engagement and learning happening. This is where the research I mentioned above comes in. These students who are sitting there passively receiving information are genuinely missing out on essential developmental skills such as critical thinking, problem solving, and collaboration, which are vital skills to have in the 21st century. But the real problem, the real question here is, what is driving this disengagement? I did say it above, but a lot of it boils down to how we are teaching. Too many educators are using outdated, culturally obsolete methods where the teacher is the sage on stage, spouting out fact after fact as our students passively are taking in the information. We lose the interest of our students in this method. This model does not appeal to the students of today's classroom who have been so plugged into technology and the mind-stimulated experiences that come with it especially after the world was shut down due to COVID-19 pandemic. This is what we set them up for. Technology. Those kids are now in junior high and high school, and we need to find a way to rediscover their love for learning. Do we have a solution to this? There are many, many solutions, but I do not have time for all of them today. Today, I'm going to go over student-led project-based learning as a possible solution for student disengagement. Project-based learning is a method used to challenge students and engage them in learning. During project-based learning, students are challenged to find real-world problems that they find interesting within a given set of parameters and find a solution to those problems. It is a learning paradigm shift that turns passive learners into active learners because the topic they are studying is now relevant to their own lives, making it more compelling. Project-based learning does not teach you facts to pass a test, does not only teach you facts to pass a test. It is a place where students take real-world situations that they are interested in and find the solutions. They create their own essential questions on the problem that they are working on. They partner with classmates who share the same interests. They devise innovative solutions and present their results in some manner to an audience of their peers or community members. For this to be successful, the teacher needs to be the guide on the side. As they spend time reading through research papers, critical thinking, collaborating with their team, and developing a plan on how they can solve the problem, this is where the paradigm shift happens. You as a teacher go from being the sage on stage to the guide on the side. And you will see students becoming empowered to take responsibility of their own learning. So the question many of you may have is, what does this mean for engagement? Well, once students see that they are those who are driving their learning, they become more invested. This can look different for each and every student. A key to this is to understand that it is no longer what they need to know to pass a test. It is now what they need in order for them to solve a problem. And that, folks, is where the magic happens. Students start to realize that learning it has meaning because it relates to their lives and their future. Sorry, technical difficulties. This future that we are setting up for them. There is concrete evidence for this transformation. A Frontier in Psychology student has reported that students who are exposed to project-based learning have scored higher on content and critical thinking scores than their peers in a traditional classroom setting. And why is that? Why do you think they are doing better when they are involved in this project-based learning? The project-based learning is the key. Project-based learning in a student-centered classroom students are not just memorizing facts to pass that test. They are in the trenches applying the knowledge to real life situations. Our traditional classroom, a teacher sits up on stage telling them what they need to know, what they need to memorize, and how they should apply it. When we are engaged in problem-based learning, the problems are assigned or chosen. They identify what they need to know to solve that problem and learn to apply and solve the problem in a new and creative, innovative way. And all of this ties into technology. The technology that our students have been using since this world shut down with COVID-19. Applying technology, how does that apply, one may say? How does this fit into our grand picture of teaching? While technology is often used incorrectly and viewed as a classroom distraction, when applied thoughtfully and intentionally, it can be extremely beneficial to student-led project-based learning. And that is the secret to technology integration, for it to be intentionally incorporated. When technology is not an afterthought, that it's being treated as an add-on or something that has been neglected, it can be the core of student-centered learning. Technology allows students to access a wealth of information, collaborate with their peers in real time, and deliver their work in new and creative ways. Tools such as Google Classroom, Padlet, virtual reality platforms can change the student's approach to their view of standards that we have to make sure that our students know. A great example of this is shown in the picture. VR enables field trips to places like the bottom of the sea for a biology lesson, or collaboration with their peers from around the world with Google Docs or Microsoft Teams. But technology in itself is not the full solution. It is the application of the technology that is important. Teachers have to be masters of this technology so that we can model and guide our students on how to it can benefit them in their learning journeys, showing them that is not just a form of entertainment, but a tool they can use to discover the world, expand their understanding, and improve collaboration efforts with people from around the world. This, in my day and age, would never have been a freedom that I had. However, we have to give them this freedom to determine which tools work best for them. What is appropriate as an individual learner for the project that they have at hand, whether it be an essay on Google Docs or a digital portfolio or a video presentation on Flipgrid that reflects their work. This kind of strategic technology allows us as educators to differentiate the lessons we teach, making it a way for advanced students to move more interactively with the problems, using data visualization to understand these complex topics, or their classmates that are struggling can use platforms such as Quizlets that break down the information to help them learn those base skills, the necessary skills for them to be a success in our fast-paced world. This ensures that every student is involved in and engaged, but at their individual level, making sure that no one is left behind. Empowering our students to be independent thinkers. What I want you to ask yourself is there a time or a day that goes by that you do not use technology, that technology is not following you everywhere you go? I think all of us can say that we rely heavily on this technology around us, whether it's the cell phone in our back pockets. Some of you probably looked for your cell phone in your back pocket, or the laptop in your briefcase, or the AirPods that are in your ears pumping through your favorite tunes, or keeping you connected to an important meeting while you're on the go. It is all around us. Technology in the classroom should be a tool to empower our students, and this technology is continually progressing, and it is all around us, and so why are we preventing students from using it? Technology should not be the distraction that many think it is. It should be a tool. We as educators should be the guide to drive our students in the right direction while using technology. This will involve redirection at times to keep students on track, but I have found that once students have found their groove and the tools that work best for them, redirection becomes minimal. One of the most exciting things about project-based learning integrated with technology is student autonomy it creates. If students can be free to use their tools, work collaboratively, and build their solutions on their own, this is where another paradigm shift happens. Students now are teaching themselves to be the big thinkers and problem solvers. They have become responsible for their own learning and are personally invested in the result. This freedom can be revolutionary for these students to become independent thinkers. For A student that was like myself, who failed to flourish in traditional learning environments because of learning disabilities. Growing up, the standard learning paradigms tended to overwhelm me with excess memorization, with little room for imagination, exploration, or practical application. I was that student who would say those dreaded words to the teachers. Those dreaded words of, how does this apply to me? Or when will I ever use this in real life? My first memory of truly learning is in 4th grade, when I still could not read. But I had a teacher who was dedicated and creative. She set up an array of games that we would play as I worked through the words on the page. This was far from the norm in the late 80s. But she had tried every traditional method for me, and she could think of, and up to this point, I could not pick it up. And nothing was working for me, so she got creative and went outside that box of traditional learning, that sage on the stage. Her creativity and dedication in a form of many, many missed lunch hours paid off. By the end of 4th grade, I went from not reading at all to reading the Lord of the Rings series. All I needed was a different approach to solve the problem. My teacher saw something in me that no other teacher had seen before. She saw that I was a student who was very intelligent, yet I was desperately crying out for help. The right tools had just not been found yet. So she found them. How does this story relate to project-based learning and technology? Well, it's simple. It relates back to my belief that every student can learn when given the right tools to do so, which is, as you all know now, I picked up from one of my favorite teachers, a teacher who stopped and took a chance on me to step outside the box. With project-based learning models, students can learn in ways that make sense to them, just as I did when I was learning how to read. Technology, when used judiciously, builds that freedom, providing students with access to content that will continuously complement their strengths and passions, developing them into a student who has a lifelong love for learning. After all, is that not our ultimate goal for our students? When we teach as a guide to our students to navigate this project-based learning using technology to help them develop life skills, we have done our jobs in preparing them for the next step in life. And we can be confident that they are equipped to go out into the world and be successful. How can we implement this? I'm sure many of you are thinking this. Of course, student-led project-based learning with the integration of technology is going to require careful planning. Teachers must be equipped with tools and trainings to facilitate the new learning model. And students must be taught how to use the technology effectively, responsibly, and critically. Luckily, since COVID-19 shut down, most school districts have assigned computers or tablets to every student, taking care of a big issue of how are they going to access this technology. Professional development is another thing. This is where we have to take our voices and initiate requesting project-based learning trainings. This will be key to proper implementation. And administrators will only know that we're interested if we express the interest. Your voice matters. One voice can set the stage for others to follow, and as others follow, that one voice turns into many. And that voice can and will be heard. Yes, it might take some time in planning. But I truly believe that this is something that can change the lives of our students so that the time and energy will be worth it. If it means that our students are becoming more engaged and that they benefit from it, it will all be worth it in the end. I know that in my own teaching experiences, I have discovered that the answer to student disengagement is not simply launching a new technological approach or some pilot program. It is more about building space where our students can feel free to engage without repercussions of stepping outside the box. This is where curiosity is ignited. Learners begin and student ignited. Learning begins and students start to collaborate with one another. With project-based learning method, teachers are no longer the keepers and dispensers of the information, but the guides to their students to explore and learn in a space that they know that it is safe to do so. There will always be points during this process where reflection is necessary. As a guide to our students, we have to constantly ask them to reflect upon their learning. Ask them, what is going well? What is posing a challenge to you? And what can we change or do differently to solve the problem that we have come up with? This reflection helps students better understand what they are learning and is a great way to help them develop lifelong learning skills. We have the responsibility to our students to be the best we can be and teach them in ways that help them to understand. I would like to point out that the main goal for this change is not about keeping students so busy or scoring high on the test. Test scores are great, but we want our students to learn. It is about helping students find a passion for learning, giving them the skills that will last them a lifetime, and empowering them to take and make a change and take charge of their education. As educators, we should be meaningful. Learning should be meaningful and not forced. I am so grateful for your time, and I invite all of you to think of other ways you can help learning become more engaging, meaningful, and learner-driven, so we can eliminate the problem of disengaged students. Thank you, and I hope you can take some of what you have heard here today and make a difference in the lives of your students. After all, your voice matters.